ran 4:05 in high school.
He was a Minnesota kid.
Minnesota kid.
Yep, Gary Bjorklund ran. I'm just filling in some spaces here for Coach. Being from Minnesota, he ran 4:05 in 1969 on a cinder track, and it was the Minnesota State high school record up until just a couple of years ago. So a guy was a heck of a talent, wasn't he, Coach?
I mean, no one could believe it for two reasons. There were some Californians, but they were doing it ideal, and it was set up and everything. And this guy is doing it in the snow belt. You know, I mean, this is really, and I mean, even the people back east was saying, what the heck is this guy? I mean, you know, because we know the snows that you have, and, you know, we have them up in Boston, but not like what you have, you know, really heavy snows. And he didn't do it indoors. He did it, you know, on the outdoor season. And, well, he opened some stores. He made some money. Winning some marathon races and 10K races. He was a very, very good 10K, 5K runner in his day. So he moved out of the mile and then moved up. And as he did, you know, he made an Olympic team. And this other fellow that he decided he needed someone that had real speed to train with, which was smart. So he got a fellow Minnesotan, right?
Mike Slack.
Yeah, and he got him to be, you know, under, you know, he ran like 55, I think.
355 in the mile, yeah.
So he got him to train with, which was a smart move. He had bulk speed and strength, and Slack had really speed, and so they both wanted to flip each other's abilities together. Very good, but you need more than two. You need about 6 people. If you get 6 people, later on I'm going to tell you how to win like Greater Boston. I'm going to give the secrets away tonight. Watch out. Hey, are there any Chinese people in here taking our, what do you call it? They better not be taking the recording and sending it back to Taiwan or wherever. All right. Okay. What really happened was BJ and Slack come in to do and run a big race called Falmouth. It's a 7-mile race, you know, right in the midst of summer, and everyone goes down to what they call the Cape, and down to Falmouth. So what happened was, Dick had been doing all the work, you know, running the stores while these guys were doing their little play and picking up their money on the side. All right, so they said, we're going to give them a trip. We're going to bring them up to Boston, and then we're going to get old Coach Squires to take care of the kid for the weekend. Little did they know, he ran them guys in the ground. So what happened was, Dickie, you know, comes down to I'm waiting there, you know, at this place that we were going to stay at, an old dump of a hotel, about 100 years old, and we were going to stay in it, you know, for the evening. Little did we know that tons of people just playing around. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I want to interject here because this will show you the kind of guy Coach Squires is. So we get to this old rundown place, and there's all kinds of people there. Most of them aren't even there to run; they're there to have a big party. Yeah. And so that night, I'm, you know, trying to find a place to sleep, and all the rooms are taken, all the beds are taken. So I, you know, grabbed a pillow and a blanket, and I'm sleeping out on the floor. Well, Coach Squires got up during the night out of his room, and he saw me laying there on the wooden floor sleeping. He says, Dickie, what the heck are you doing sleeping on the floor? I said, well, Coach, there's no more beds. He says, well, listen, you take my bed, and you know, I'll figure out someplace else to sleep. And I said, no, I can't do that. He said, no, I insist. So Coach Squires gave me up his bed, and so I went in there and fell right to sleep. And I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I got up to use the bathroom, and I walk into the bathroom, and I flip on the light, and I kind of see something off to my left, and I look over. Here Coach Squires is sleeping in the bathtub with a towel over him as a blanket. That's the kind of guy he is, honest to goodness. He would give you the shirt off of his back, and you know, I'd known Coach Squires at that point probably maybe 12 hours, but I thought, wow, that is One, I mean, of course, I knew of Coach Squires, but had never met him before, and I'm thinking, wow, that is something. This guy, this renowned coach, will give up his bed for some guy he'd never even heard of who Dick Beardsley was at the time. So anyhow, Coach, I'll let you take it back.
Okay. To end the story, I decided that, you know, the kid was a nice kid, and I kept saying, well, you know, this is a, you know, I will take him on. I usually, you know, if anyone wants something, I used to have a what they call a training scheme, and I'd pass them out to them, you know, to different people. Because it got my athletes to say, we want to get the heck home and eat. You know, what the heck, coach? You know, you know, afterwards I'd be there a half hour or 3/4 of an hour doing training schemes for some people that wanted it, you know. And I go, oh, God. So I gave him a 3-week training scheme.
On the back of a bar napkin.
Yeah, be worth a lot of money.
I know it.
I mean, now, okay. All right. So, and people always said, well, why didn't you do this? Because I used to get all those little napkins, you know, those things. I'd never print it out. Hey, I work for the CIA. I really did. And you'll wonder, this country, you know, is still together. Yeah, okay. All right. So what really did transpire, you know, with the by giving Dickie this sheet of paper, I then had a phone pal. So
no computers back then.
Yeah, there was no computers, nothing. So okay, so he decides that he's going to go through my 3-week cycle, and it's worked, and you will all know later. You will be under the cycle. You better shut your mouth, because you give the cycle away, guess what? They'll bury you. There's better out there, and don't get, because my athletes, I used to say that to them, are you a fool to get you? They go, well, why don't you this? And then they slips of paper, and, you know, and I go, I burn that stuff. Are you kidding? I said, that's secret stuff. Don't worry about it. Does it work? Uh-huh. Well, let's just keep the scheme going. And then they lovely runner's world at times. He and Meyer and Dick would, we're going to make that back page and give away all our secrets. I went, yeah.
It came out I think the month or 2 weeks before Boston, what I was doing, they asked me if I would write it down. I said, sure. You know, I'm a little naive, and so it comes out, and Coach Squires calls me up, and that's as mad as I've ever seen him get. I mean, if he could have put his hand to the phone and grabbed me by my neck, he would have at that point.
All right, well, that's over the hill and down the dale. But after that, you know, Dick followed and we became, you know, phone pals. But then, you know, but again, then he liked that, what they call travel fever. Ever heard of that? Well, I just made it up. He wanted to travel and gave me a fever, because the next thing, you know, everyone, you know, they kind of want this kid. Oh, Jesus, yeah. Oh, he's okay. Come on, you can come to this meet, you know, and what are we going to give you? Well, you know, we won't give you much money. We'll give you airfare or, you know, train fare or something. Okay. And, you know, he got into that little trap. But whatever, it didn't, but you...
It was so new to me. You know, I grew up in Minnesota, and to be able to travel somewhere and get, you know, like, to go to Chicago to run a race. You know, I'd never been to Chicago before, or to New York or something like that. And it's like, holy cow, this is amazing. You know, I don't have to pay for my flight. And back then there wasn't prize money or anything. And once in a while, you know, they might give you a couple $100, but at least they pay for your meals and give you a place to sleep. And I loved to race. In fact, back then we all ran lots of races, but I loved the competition, and it was so new to me. And when you're young, you know, I'll be the first to admit, I mean, I would never say this to anybody at the time, but I thought I could run through a brick wall. I really, for a period of time, I thought I was unbreakable. And obviously I wasn't. And, when I was younger, I really felt like I was. Again, I would never say that to anybody else, but I thought, well, I'll just run races all the time and just keep running lots of marathons, and it's all going to work out great.
Very good. Okay, I think we're gonna. I think we're giving you the little capsule summary, and now we're going to get into the epic race. Okay, now where do we start? Well, it's a year. Then it would be about a little over a year and a half later.
Yeah. So about a year and a half later.
A year and a half later,
spring of '82 or spring of '80. Or summer of '81, I think, is when we decided that's what we're going to do Boston.
Yeah, well, you decided that Boston, and I kept saying, we don't know who's going to be there, but we're gonna focus on that. And he goes, good, because other than that, he was going to Grandma's and he was going to, the wood shop old, marathon in West Nowhere. But I mean, he was going, with different places. And I kept saying, at the time, I go, I don't want a person, coming to Boston without a few marathons under his belt. And, all my athletes, I used to find a moderate marathon to start with, the first one. And that's good. Now, I know there's many, many marathoners that D and F did not finish. My athletes finish. I'll clue you. I don't care to come in with their shield, like the Greeks. No, okay. So I go. You've got to be able to, have a good feeling for marathons. But DNF is not a good feeling. Greta Weiss knows. That's why she's never come back to Boston ever again. I mean, there are a lot of people that, oh, God, this, that, the other thing. Well, I wanted my athlete, when they're ready, they come to race, not to run. They come to race, and they'll, race and finish at least decently, no matter what it is. And I'd always look at them. We'll talk 3 days later or 2 days later, and I have the pluses and the minuses, and I asked them what they thought they missed, and what and we have a little chat on the phone or whatever, or if my own athletes, one-on-one, and at the end of that, then I have to see where I were remiss, and then I'll change for the next time, so that that's more or less the way we worked. Well, Boston is at that time, a big deal. You win Boston. New York was in its infancy, and Chicago wasn't around. They had a race out there, but it wasn't really around. So I mean, and then out in the West Coast, the marathon races weren't that big, really big. And maybe it was the heat or whatever, whatever it was. It just wasn't. But Boston always was the race to go to. You got to do it before you go to the hereafter. All right. So Dickie said, all right, we're going to go. And I said, okay. And set a program up. And there we go. We were looking towards everything. So I found one. Who was it? Mike. Mike. Who was it? Mike
Slack?
No. Mike, the guy that you stayed with.
Oh yeah, Mike Dempiro. I stayed down there and trained with Dean Matthews in a little bit.
Dean Matthews. So what we
in
needed,
Atlanta, Georgia. I went down there for about the 3 months before Boston. Mm-hmm. Not so much to get out of the cold Minnesota winters, but it was more to get down there where I grew up. It was very flat. To get where it was very hilly, to get used to the hills. Yeah. So Coach said, let's go to Atlanta. Yeah, we went to it. He went down to Atlanta, and everything was working well. And I said, all right, 3 weeks before 3 weeks before Boston, all right, you're going to come up, and what you're going to do is we're going to spend like 5 days to 7 days, and we're going to get 2 good workouts in, and the next thing, Boston's going to have a big blizzard.
how many inches was it? It
was like
16 or 18. I
it
mean,
was a
everything
lot.
was
Couple feet, pretty close.
20 inches or something. And I'm going, oh, God, no, oh, no. We were the only things. The subway stopped. The rapid transit thing above the subway, they stopped. And would see an occasional police car.
Well, yeah, when I got there, Coach offered up his home for me to stay in. And so I got there, and he picked me up, and, we get to his house later that night, and he says, Dickie, just, help yourself to anything in the house, anything you want in the fridge to eat. And I said, oh, great. So, I'm training hard, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, I get up to, I was hungry. So I get up, and I thought, well, you said I could have anything to eat. So I go to, he says, yeah, do you have anything I have, in the cupboards or fridge? So I'm looking in the cupboards. I'm thinking, this is Mother Hubbard. There's nothing in the cupboard. So I go over to the refrigerator, and there's a jar of pickles in the refrigerator. That's it. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm eating a jar of pickles.
My lawyer will talk to you. Okay. Well, whatever. I want him thin and lean. I don't know who said that one. Yeah, okay. That's made it up. Okay. So what really happened was, I'm going over the road, and I'm going, it's been snowing. It had been snowing for like, I guess about 8 hours steady. And it was like that wet kind of snow, not the fluffy stuff. And boy, it was sticking. And so we got there somehow.
We got close to where Heartbreak Hill was.
Yeah. So we were going to go Heartbreak Hill. I wanted 6 Heartbreak Hills. That means up, down, and back, So that meant that it was light to light. There was a light at Heartbreak Hill right where it starts to get what do you call it? Steep. Thank you. And then at the bottom of Heartbreak Hill, there is another light. I don't even think the light worked at Boston College. Everything was like, it was really a sleet storm, and it probably had no more than like, I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 inches. We don't get too many sleet storms, but this one was bad, and then everything was called off. I mean, it was a Sunday, but I mean, all churches are called off. All this, there won't be any schools on Monday and everything. I'm going, well. And, of course, all of a sudden, the trolley guys couldn't get their cars going, and they wanted people to help them push. So I was helping a few of them push. One guy goes, hey, are you with that wild guy that's running up and down the mountains? What the hell is up with him? Is he institutionalized? What the? And I go, no, I'm his mentor. No, I said, don't worry. I said, he's going to do something in the Boston Marathon if he lives. And he goes, this is nuts. What are you doing? And I said, well, we're going back. And when Dickie would come back after a circuit, I would take the, do you remember, the towel and wipe he was like the abominable snowman, and wipe it all off, and then wipe his eyes, go, and then he'd go up and down. So we'd go from light to light. I gave up timing because I couldn't even read the thing. But I mean, that would be a thing if we ever knew the times that we ran. But we're going up and down, and he goes, geez, I'm hungry, Coach. I said, there's nothing open. But I said, and he goes, there's nothing in your refrigerator either. I said, well, okay. So we found some kind of a place open. I don't know what the heck it was, a donut place or some stupid place. And then I go, and then I'm on my way back, and I said, Dickie, I said, you're going to let's take all your clothes, and all your stuff that you're going to need. You're going back to Atlanta. I said, I don't know how many. We're going to lose 5 to 7 days, at least 4 days, and those are days we can do something. Call Dean and tell him to pick you up at the airport. So away he went back to the heat, and I'm back in the snow belt, So that was that was like into your memory box. I bet during when you were running the race, you probably were thinking.
Oh yeah, I thought about that. There's no question. I thought about Heartbreak Hill when certain places in the race when it got very tough going, and Alberto was breathing down my neck. And I thought I thought back to that day, and I remember thinking, gosh. And as I was running up and down Heartbreak in that snowstorm that day, I remember thinking, I know nobody else is out here today. And I'm thinking, okay, Alberto's out in Oregon. The weather's nicer. Bill Rogers is down in Florida or Arizona training. And nobody's doing what I'm doing today. That's what I kept telling myself. Mm-hmm. And even though I couldn't run the workout like we'd hoped to run it, just being out there in the snow and doing the effort was what was, the important part to me. And that's what, on race day, I used that a lot. And on race day,